Hello everyone, welcome to If you haven't already, guys, hit that subscribe button, the notifications bell in the corner over there so you know each time we release one of these videos. Right, let's get straight into it. So the new Ork book is really cool. I'll be the first to say, it's not the most competitive and overpowering book out there that's come out like the last books, you know. Sisters, Admech, Drakari are really powerful books. Orks, I don't think are on the same level. They are still decent though, and there's some really cool things you can do in there. So today we're going to look at the top 3 Warlord traits from the book. But what I've done is I've picked the top 1 from each category. So you have Speed Freak Warlord traits now, you have Beast Snagger Warlord traits now, and you have Orks Warlord traits. So I've picked the best one from each, in my opinion, and I'm going to reel them off to you. So in at number 3, I've got Speed Freaks. So I think Speed Freaks is not as good as the other ones that you can get. So I think Speed Freaks comes in at number 3, and it's the Junk Boss Warlord trait. And that means that this Warlord has a 4+ invulnerable save, because it's for Speed Freaks. So you're most likely going to do this on a model like a Deathkiller Wartrike. Of course, a war boss on a bike at the moment is Forge World, so its rules are interacting weirdly with the old Ork Codex and stuff like that. So at the moment, I'm just going to talk about the characters that we know it can go on. So Deathkiller Wartrike, I mean, that thing packs a massive punch. It's already fairly survivable because of its toughness and its wound characteristic, but it zooms around the board so quickly. It's not normally going to be around the units that stop it from getting shot and stuff like that, because it wants to go off and do its own thing. And if you want to do that, giving it a 4+ invulnerable save just adds that survivability. And, you know, in some instances, it will double or triple the amount of firepower somebody has to put into you to get through your save to then deal the damage and kill this guy. So if people want to go for him, they're going to be putting in a lot more firepower or combat punch than they would ideally like to. So for that reason, I think that's the best Speed Freak Warlord trait. Right, in at number 2, I've got a Beast Snaggers one. I actually really like the Beast Snaggers Warlord traits, and I think it's brilliant. It's called Beast Gob, and the reason why this comes in at number 2 is it's an aura. That's why I think it's better than the Speed Freak one. It's an aura, and so that means it's a force multiplier, and anything that's a force multiplier will just help you loads in games if used correctly with the right stuff. So Beast Gob means that clan squig units within 6 inches, when they make melee attacks with either Squighog Jaws, Smasher Squig Jaws, or Squigosaur's Jaws, which is his own mount as well, because it's probably going to be on a beast boss on a Squigosaur, then you add 1 to the damage of those attacks. Now that's insane, because you've got to remember the Squigosaur that the beast boss comes on himself. I think it's a brilliant Warlord trait just for that. You know, it affects that, and that Squigosaur makes 3 additional attacks after the beast boss has fought. They're strength 7 -3 flat 3 damage. So now they're going to be strength 7 -3 flat 4 damage, and it's 3 additional attacks with that. But not just that. If you've got knobs on Smasher Squigs around him, the jaws on their Squigosaur, on their Smasher Squig's jaws are going to become flat 3 damage. And then Squighog Riders, their Squigs, their Squighog jaws are going to become flat 3 damage as well. Strength 6 -1, flat 3 damage, 2 extra attacks per model in the unit. And it's just, you know, it's adding so much, I think, in damage potential if you take it with the right things. And the reason why it comes in at number 2 as well is I think those units are so, like, cheaply costed, it wouldn't take much to add them in to make big use of this Warlord trait. Like, this guy on the Squigosaur will be 145 points, yes, but if you take like 2 knobs with him, they're only 65 points each, and they're really good for their points. Then Squighogs, you could take a unit of 3 for only 75 points total. And, you know, I think you'll get big mileage out of this Warlord trait if you use it in the right type of list. And then in at number 1 is an Orks Warlord trait. I mean, this was the best one before, and it's still the best one now. It works in a totally different way to how it did before, and that is Brutal but Cunning. So before, Brutal but Cunning would let you re-roll your hit rolls in combat, I believe, and also it would add 1 to the damage characteristic of a weapon that the Warlord was carrying. So it just added to that punch and the amount of attacks that go through. But now, it's still very good. It is essentially the Ork version of Competitive Edge, pretty much exactly. It says if all attacks made by this Warlord target one unit, then after resolving all of those attacks, it can make a number of additional attacks against that enemy unit equal to the number of attacks that did not reach the inflict damage step. So they were stopped before damage went through. So that's either any attack that he fails to hit with, any attack that he fails to wound with, or any attack that your opponent passes the saves for, that all of those attacks have not reached the inflict damage step, so he would make that many attacks again. So just to explain that fully, say he had 6 attacks. He misses with 1 attack, so only 5 go through. He fails to wound with 1 attack, so only 4 go through, and your opponent saves 2. So 4 of them have failed, 1 in the hit step, 1 in the wound step, and 2 in the save step. So 4 have failed, 2 have gone through. So those 2 would go through and do their damage, and the 4 that failed, you get to make 4 more attacks for. Now, of course, you can only do that once, so you'd get 4 more attacks, and then after that, it would stop. Doesn't matter how many go through or not. But essentially, it's giving your Warlord like an extra time to go through. So, you know, how many times have you gone into combat and you've missed with a few too many, failed to wound with a few too many, or your opponent saved a few too many, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, because of that one little bad luck thing that happened there, I'm now in a really bad situation. Well, what this does is it essentially gives him a deficit. So he goes in there, he does his damage, and he goes, oh, I didn't roll so well. It's okay. All the attacks didn't do so well. I get to make those again. And it just you know, gives you a cheap character who's gonna, you know, pack a massive punch in combat, because all the unreliability that you normally have is kind of countered by the fact that he gets additional chances to make attacks with. So those are my favorite 3 Warlord traits from the new Orc book. If you guys are using any that you think are really good and people would benefit from knowing about, please leave in the comments below for everybody to share. And I'll be back tomorrow with another video for you guys. See you later.